Hello. Are we streaming? We are streaming, aren't we? I think so. Well, you guys, we need to talk about some interesting things that's developing thanks to Senator Josh Hawley. So, nothing really new to talk about as far as the problem is concerned with regards to social media, adpocalypse, social media censorship, with regards to center right or right leaning content. You guys know. That's been going on for a while. So we have some members of the government. They have some solutions to address the issue. Let's go over it a little quickly. Let me just tell you guys what I think. Some of the potential good things and some interesting things that can come out of it. So this is the main page. It's from Senator Hawley's personal website. I think, well, not personal website, his official website. I will link this down in the description below for you guys to check later on if you guys are watching this later on. So this is the crux of the matter. We all know that these tech giant companies, Facebook, Twitter, and the like, they essentially have total legal immunity because under the Communications Decency Act, Section 230C, these people are categorized as platforms. So they face no legal liability, and in exchange for that, they got to treat people equally. They got to treat all ideas equally, or in other words, they cannot exercise editorial control with regards to certain ideas or with regards to posts on their sites. We know that Facebook and most of the tech giants they abuse that. They don't follow through that at all. So that's essentially what this targets. We have Senator Lawley's legislation removes the immunity of big tech companies receive under Section 230 unless they submit to an external audit that proves by clear and convincing evidence that their algorithm and content removal practices are politically neutral. So this is what they target. With Section 230, tech giants get a sweetheart deal that no industry enjoys. Complete exemption from traditional publisher liability in exchange for providing a forum free of political censorship. However, unfortunately and surprisingly, big tech has failed to hold up its end of the bargain. We know that problem, it has existed. Let's just go into the schematics of this this proposal so far. It removes automatic immunity under Section 230 from big tech companies, gives tech companies the ability to earn immunity through external audits. Big tech companies would have to prove to the FTC by clear and convincing evidence that their algorithms and content removal practices are politically neutral. The FTC could not certify big tech companies for immunity except by a supermajority vote. Big tech companies would be responsible for the cost of conducting audits. Big tech companies would have to reapply for immunity every 2 years. Preserves existing immunity by small and medium-sized companies. So smaller tech firms that have less than 30 million active monthly users in the U.S. they are immune from this for the time being. But if they get to more than 300 million monthly active users worldwide, or 30 million in the U.S., or have 500 million in global annual revenue, they will be subject to this. So let's talk about the good, bad, and the ugly. The good part of this is that it's aimed at addressing a legitimate problem, right? We all know this problem exists, and it's aiming at a very important problem. So on that part, I have to give props to Senator Hawley. He, along with Ted Cruz, might be the only people who's giving some thought towards this. There are some gray areas, though, that I'm a little concerned about. Firstly, if this ever clears, if this ever gets passed, we don't know what the end result would look like. One of the problems with government regulations is that there's a big difference between what senators propose and what the end product is. Big tech companies, they'll have lots of lobbyists who will be making modifications or tweaks to this. And also, they don't need lobbyists. They have their friends, the progressives and the Democrats, who will be making all sorts of adjustment to this. So that's one concern. The other concern that I have is with regards to this particular statement. Big tech companies would have to prove to the FTC by clear and convincing evidence that their algorithms and content removal practices are politically neutral. I have a little bit of a concern with that particular statement. And the reason why I say I have a particular concern is not that I think Senator Hawley has any bad intentions. I think Senator Hawley is approaching it in good faith. However, I could almost guarantee that the other side is gonna, if they allow this to stay in the final product, they're gonna abuse the hell out of it. So before getting into why I am a little terrified of this particular statement, let me go into what I think the main problem with the tech censorship that we're having. Think about a company. Think about Walmart or Home Depot. These companies engage with different kinds of people, right? They have different business partners, they have suppliers, they have insurance and so on. If Walmart says or if Home Depot says, "We will not do business with you because you have this political ideology." I have no problem with that. If Home Depot says, "We will do business with you, but we will subject you under different terms and rules if you have this particular ideology," I have no problem with that. As a libertarian, I'm completely okay with it. However, if Home Depot says that we do not discriminate, we will do business with everyone the same way. However, if it turns out that when they have contracts with certain people, and based on the political leanings of the individuals, they are actually going back on the contract that they signed, at that point I would have a problem because that is an unethical business practice, and you would expect the government to take care of stuff like this. If the government does not intervene in make sure the maintenance of individual contracts are being made, why do we even have a government? I don't understand. So that really is the part that I have a problem with. Translating that to the tech situation that we have, Facebook, YouTube, and all these other tech companies, their business partners are their content creators. And if they are from the outset clear that, listen, if you are a right leaning content creator, if you are a uh, center leaning content creator, we're going to treat you very differently. And this is the differences in which we're going to treat you in, or we're not going to do business with you, period. I wouldn't have a problem with it. The problem that I have is that if you are partners with Facebook or YouTube and you with them and you enter a contract with them, you have no idea if these contracts are going to be carried out. You have no idea if Facebook and business are going to follow through with their end of the bargain. And that essentially is where I have where that's where the bulk of my concerns are with regards to the business. Going back to what I'm particularly afraid of, this particular statement. Big tech companies would have to prove to the FTC by clear and convincing evidence that their algorithms and content removal practices are politically neutral. Let me tell you why I am a little terrified of this particular statement. I think we all know, or those of us that follow political commentary or even news from social media, by numbers we can sort of see that channels or content creators that are more objective, that are closer to the center, or even right leaning, do better than the left leaning content creators. And there are many reasons for that. Reasons could include that the left leaning content creators are already fighting for audience with mainstream media, and it's a little more difficult for them. It could be the case that people are just sick and tired of the left leaning narrative shoved down their throats at every instance. It could be a whole host of reasons. But whatever the reason is, in a level playing field, center um, centrist content creators or right-leaning content creators do better than the progressive types. That is in a level playing field. Even under certain restrictions like throttling of traffic, throttling of views, suppressing of views, right-leaning content creators still do better than the progressive outlets that get every algorithmic advantage known to man. That is why I am really scared of this statement. This statement says companies would have to prove to the FTC by clear and convincing evidence that algorithms and content removal practices are politically neutral. Once again, this on its own doesn't sound bad, but imagine a situation, and once again, this might not be too far from reality, right? Imagine a situation where we have President Bernie Sanders or President Kamala Harris. And with President Kamala Harris, they have the Senate and or the House in their control. Now, President Kamala Harris realizes that the Young Turks or any progressive outlet that's pushing her is not doing as well as the Daily Wire. At that point, YouTube would have to prove to Kamala Harris that the Young Turks, who despite getting every algorithmic advantage, is still sucking compared to, let's say, the Daily Wire. All this is hypothetical. If you are progressive, don't be offended. I, do you? Is it too unrealistic to say that people like Kamala Harris, at that point in time, if they have the power, and in this particular case they will have the power, could use something like this to make sure YouTube throttles the Daily Wire more? Let me see if I can be a little more coherent on this because I think my explanation was really bad. If progressive outlets fail to compete with right-leaning outlets, which they do, they really do, they suck. In a level playing field, they would be crushed. Given how this is worded, and if the wrong people are in control, could they not use this to throttle right-leaning content even more? My answer to that question is I don't know, but my fear is yes, they could. I think this article at the National Review by David French sort of addresses this problem. I might link this in the description too. David French addresses the problem a little better. Like he has the same concern, and he does a much better job explaining this. So this is still something that I'm glad that our lawmakers are thinking about this. And there's going to be a lot of trial and error before we can set this through, right? So Senator Hawley, at least he's thinking about it. He understands the problem and he's thinking about a way to address the problem. Let's face it, the vast majority of senators, even Republicans, they're not even remotely aware of the problem. So at least people are thinking about it, and I am glad that there is a conversation happening. There are people starting to wake up. But this in its own has some gray areas, has certain things that I am a little worried about. And I really think the best way you can actually address this problem is through competition. And I like the fact that Senator Hawley is trying to make tech companies more transparent. I like that aspect of it. If it were me, I would really focus on the transparency aspect of it. I would make Google and YouTube be crystal clear on what their terms of service are. If it were me, I would say, okay, Facebook, Google, you guys make up your own terms of services. Anything you want, make up your own terms of services. I don't care. After you're done making your terms of services, let me have a look. I will not influence it. I will not ask you to make any change it. I just want to see that you are implementing your terms of services properly across the board the same way. So, if you completely demonetize Steven Crowder for saying something offensive, I want to see you do that to John Oliver. I want to see that you do that to Jimmy Kimmel. I want you to see that you do that to Samantha Bee. If not, you're not following through on your own terms of services, the own contract that you made up for your content creators. If that is not the case, then I would have a problem. Like I would really want. I can't say I want regulation, but if we do have regulation, I want that to be the focus rather than something like this, rather than companies having to prove their algorithm to the FTC. Because once again, I'm not sure to what extent the FTC is vulnerable to political pressures, and also proving to senators that algorithms are politically neutral. Given the last two hearings I mean, there was one hearing with Mark Zuckerberg, and the only senator who seemed to have any idea what was going on was Ted Cruz. None of the Republican senators had any idea even how Facebook operated. So I can totally see senators misunderstanding the data, because knowing how Democrats work, knowing how the mind of a progressive work, these guys look at the average salary of a man and an average salary of a woman, find a difference, and then conclude there is discrimination. That's how stupid their line of reasoning is. So it's not unnatural, at least for me, to think that they're going to look at, oh, Daily Wire, average viewership this, Young Turks, average viewership's this. There is a difference, discrimination. These guys, they do have a propensity to interpret numbers like that. So that's essentially what I'm scared of. But I'm glad. Props to Senator Josh Hawley for addressing the problem. And I hope more people would join in and, you know, try to address the problem. Hopefully, they'll focus on the business transparency issue more. That's really what I'm concerned about. But let me know what you guys think. I'll stop babbling. Talk to you guys later.